Welcome back into the Rowdy Studio. I'm Stephen Levine. Tom Vandevoort's on the end, and we are joined
Got
by
my racing jacket on.
Sporting News' NASCAR editor, Jeff Owens. And Jeff,
He's a big advocate of wrecking people.
I've been talking about how good Brad
this morning on the Word.
I've been talking about how good Brad Keselowski is for the sport, and you wrote a column earlier this week where you said, hey, the fact that Brad Keselowski didn't take out Jimmie Johnson at Texas was bad for the sport.
You know, I just wonder what it would have been like, what the reaction would have been. You know, we all thought that was a thrilling race, great side-by-side action, some of the best racing we've seen in the chase, bumping and banging, slamming doors. What would have happened had he gone a step further and, whether intentional or not, wrecked him?
He would have got wrecked back.
He probably would have at Phoenix this weekend. It seems like in this day and age, that's sort of what fans want to see. They want to see that aggressive approach and that hard racing. And in the case of Jimmie Johnson, maybe they want to see somebody step up and take him out, because we know right now there's all this growing disdain and disgruntlement and dread that, oh my gosh, Jimmie's going to win a 6th championship.
Well, he probably is, but I think the thing that's interesting to me is Keselowski has a reputation of being a fairly aggressive driver, and if you look how he handled, especially the second to last restart, defending his position, he was pretty aggressive there. I mean, that was some big boy driving, as I've been fond of saying this week, and I think he handled himself pretty well, and to stay in the game here, he's got to stay close to Jimmie. He's going to have to outrun him probably at Homestead, depending on what happens at Phoenix. But we all know how good Jimmie is there.
I'm not saying he should have wrecked the
Well,
guy.
no, that is what you're saying, Jeff. Come on. You said he should have punted him and taken him out.
Would everybody hate the guy because he did that? Would he just be the biggest villain in the sport and get booed off the stage at Phoenix if he wrecked Jimmie Johnson? Or would he suddenly be the most popular guy in the sport?
Or is there a third alternative, which is, well, that's the only way he could beat Jimmie Johnson and win a championship, and perhaps he didn't want to own that.
Now he's in a situation where he's got to be really aggressive and he's got to take some chances, because a 7-point margin under this new point system,
it's big.
It's fairly significant.
He's got to be within single digits going into Homestead.
Right. I mean, Jimmie just does not finish worse than 7th very often. So Brad's got to do something extraordinary at Phoenix, I think, to be in this thing.
The other interesting thing about Brad Keselowski is his evolution as a driver. I mean, in his first couple of years, he had big-time feuds with Denny Hamlin, big-time feud with Carl Edwards, because he wasn't afraid to use his car to make space. Right. So, and now, I don't know if it's maturity or if it's just the natural evolution of a big-time stock car driver, but he's sort of backed away from that.
Yeah, I think he's learned where the line is, and he's learned what he needs to do to be a championship contender. I still think that aggressiveness is there, and he'll tell you that. You know, he still wants to be known as the guy who's one of the most aggressive racers out there.
You know, the other thing about it is you have to look at it as what's a cheap shot and what's not.
Right.
Because if you're faster than a guy and he's in front of you and you move him out of the way, it's generally these days not considered to be a cheap shot.
Right, and that's kind of the whole point of this column. Is that acceptable today or not?
I think it is, but I also think there's a difference between using your bumper to win a race and using your bumper to win a championship.
Right. But why would you do it to win a race and not do it to win a championship, when the championship is the ultimate
If
prize?
you're just flat out wrecking the guy, then that to me is a cheap shot.
I agree, but there's a difference between just flat out running into him and wrecking him, or pushing it so hard that somebody's got to lift, and if you don't, you're
And I think Keselowski is pretty close to that on the next to last restart at Texas.
He was close. I mean, he could have wrecked Jimmie, and it would not have looked or been intentional. It would have been a matter of, I'm not lifting for nothing.
One of them racing deals.
You're either lifting or you're going in the wall.
Yeah.
And we don't see that enough today. And you look at things like declining attendance, declining TV ratings, and an older, long-time fan base that seems to be getting increasingly disgruntled with the sport, and you just wonder if that's an element of the sport that we're missing today. Would Dale Earnhardt have wrecked Jimmie Johnson in that situation?
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
And they would have gone out for a beer later that night.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's where the sport has changed, and my point is we're missing that today. And here you got a guy that, I mean, Jimmie Johnson's great. We all know that. He deserves every ounce of credit he gets. But the majority of the fan base does not want to see him win again.
Because they want to see another guy win.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
It's not so much that they hate Jimmie, it's just that they're kind of tired of him.
Yeah.
well, therefore they hate him.
Right, exactly.
They hate him for
being so damn
but
for
here-
a lame reason,
but here
nevertheless.
At Rowdy, we're not about hate, Jeff. We're about love.
Right.
And we
And caring and
appreciate
compassion.
and love the fact that you just sat here and watched this video. That's Jeff, that's Tom, I'm Steven. Thanks for watching.